ahead.
Okay, Francis, hi. Hello.
Yes?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi, Francis. Um, okay, Francis, I agree with all you said in yesterday's meditation, what you said about Wittgenstein. I agree. I agree all you said about it. I only said he had insights into truth and beauty as absolute. And I was just taken by the beauty of his journey from logical positivism to these moments of understanding. And they showed an integrity and honesty and love for truth. But I agree, I've agreed with you before that these were not liberating insights. He remained in ignorance, he remained in this dualism. I agree. Everything you said, I completely agree. I never suggested the contrary. And I agree, and I never recommended this writing to anyone, and certainly not as a way to understand the truth. It's anyway. My question is another one. It's I just wanted to say there was a misunderstanding, and you understand now why. My dialogues with you, I've always been. I mean, I've take sometimes them to be as yoga exercises. Even when you were reading the questions out, it was like this. From the moment the questions arise, there is agitation and this ignorant fear that what I say will be understood and dismissed. And then it's like, like you said, eventually the universe obey my orders, and then, I can't speak anymore. And last time, after my dialogue last time, there was this.
Just give me just
Yes, sorry.
a moment here because who is there? James Wade. James Wade. Okay, thank you, James. I don't know, for some reason our participants are authorized to share the screen of their computer. And that's kind of annoying when it shows up. You cannot share your webcams, but you can share the screen. I mean, there must be a setting to prevent you from doing that. So, John, if you can look into it, or I will look. No, don't worry, I will look into it. And to avoid this annoying disturbances in the future. So, going back to
Yes.
Gianna, yes.
Yes, I was saying, after these dialogues in which I feel so nervous, it's better now. I feel okay now. I still feel this openness, but I'm still nervous. But sometimes, like last dialogues, after that, right, I feel intense distress and sadness. I feel it's going to end the world. And the day after, everything is like if it never happened. The police is back, and but then what happened last time, and it's not the only time, what happened, I have exhilarating experiences, and there is this absolute self-evidence, and it's stupid what I say because I tell you, you understand why. There is this absolute unity, and in which there is no.
Don't worry about that. It's because you are in love with the truth. I have no doubt about that. So
Yes.
You should be reassured. It remind me. I'm going to tell you a personal story. I was with my teacher in Switzerland in the cottage, and we were spending time together there and on vacation. And it was in the evening, and we had a conversation, and there were 2 or 3 friends with us and on the sofa, you know, after dinner. And I said something, and I guess he misunderstood what I said. I don't remember what the context was. And he kind of said, no, that's not, but that's not true, or that's not. And then I could feel, because I was putting so much authority in him, not kind of allowing him to misunderstand what I was saying, or just to set aside what I was saying and to answer in a slightly different direction, to open my horizon, so to speak, to a different aspect of the truth that he wanted to emphasize, or just to show me. And I felt so misunderstood, because everything, it seemed at the moment that everything I had understood was wrong. And I could feel this deep emotion in me. I was about to cry, see? And all I remember is I said, but John, I was talking about consciousness. And then he said, well, if you're talking about consciousness, then, or something like that. It was not an acknowledgement of his mistake, or that he had made a mistake, but I don't think he made a mistake. It was simply a misunderstanding. And perhaps not even a misunderstanding. Perhaps he understood where I was coming from and wanted to, as you say, as I said, show me a different direction. But later on, I understood that I was completely right. You see, that there was no need for me to react so much. My teachers seemed to not to approve of what I was saying, or to misunderstand what I was saying, or to try to add something on top of what I was saying to complement it somehow. You see, but we are so much in love with truth in the beginning that we are really fully engaged with it. You know, and if someone we trust seems to tell us, no, you are wrong, that it feels like the hell is the sky is falling on our heads. Just want to mention that there is nothing to worry about. I'm quite sure you have a good understanding of what I'm talking about. The only question is just to allow for it to implement itself in our life, which is a lifelong assignment, in fact, somehow.
Yes. I think there is always this deepening, and it never. I don't think misunderstandings are possible. I think they are just part of understanding. It's a kind of.
Well, teachers can make mistake, not about the truth itself, but can do things in daily life that they can make mistakes in the relative realm, like they can have a car accident. You see, they can make a mistake while making an addition.
Yes.
You know, I remember one day I was calculating something like, and you know, this in the multiplication tables, you know, these things like, I mean, 2 times 4 is easy, that's 8. But something like 7 times 9 or 8 times 9, you know. And I know that I made a mistake. And everybody laughed, you know. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yes.
It's part of the fun, right?
It's part of the fun. It's part of the fun. But there are those moments when I see, when it's so clear that really there is this, just this, there is no me and you, there is just one, and then so I was wondering, whenever I ask you a question, I have to become more than one. And this openness kind of has to, is still here, but from this oneness where everything is just happening, everything is just, there is not like here, there is just this one, and this one is, there is nothing to be said in those moments. There is absolute, I laugh because I say, what, there is nothing to be said and really nothing to be done. And in those moments, I think, I don't think I should ask this question. But then this goes and I think, oh, I have to tell Francis. But of course, there is no Francis. There is no Luciana, no Francis. It's just this one. And there is perfection. There is this perfection. And I I don't want to make, because after it has gone, the world are stupid. It's a, there isn't, it's not even possible to speak about that. And yet here I am speaking about that. I want to stay. And I am always, I know I'm always this openness because I am this openness all the time, and I am now. I kind of veil it every time, like every time a question arises, or and I was just wondering sometimes, and maybe I shouldn't wonder this, but when I have a dialogue with you, I feel really impelled. I need to ask this question. It's like a call that I really, but and I'm, if I feel impaired, I must feel separate. I must feel, in that moment, I must feel, oh, there is this Luciano who is impaired to ask question. I don't know, but I feel impaired. And after I ask the question, the experience I have
Well,
afterwards.
I don't think, you know, I don't feel that it was that much impaired because you speak very freely and I don't feel
Yes,
much
yes, I
impairment.
know. Yes. But now I see you are a teacher and I am a student. There is not this absolute oneness. There is a division. There is a separation. And even if I feel happy now, I feel good. There is no misunderstanding, and I feel, yes, there is communication, there is love, and I feel it. I feel it. But I still have to separate myself to ask you a question. And it's not the same when with other people. I still have the openness completely.
Yeah,
You see, I see you as my teacher. You are my teacher. You are divine, but you are also my teacher. And I still feel like this. And when I did not ask you a question for a while, it's like I felt not happier, but I felt yes. This experience doesn't go away just because I don't ask him questions. Doesn't need confirmation. It's just, it kind of depends.
as as the residues of being a person gradually over time vanish in you, this distinction between teacher and student disappears. And it is this distinction is the last instrument, if you will, used to get established in the truth. And then you'll see that you see more and more the teacher as a human being, but you see at the same time all human beings as yourself. It is not true that you see all human beings as yourself, with an exception for the teacher. That's not really true. So you see, that's a point I invite you to take a closer look at, because it is only to the extent that you see all human beings as yourself that then this distinction between student and teacher disappears. As long as this distinction between student and teacher remains, it is a symptom, if you will, that this distinction is not only between you and the teacher, but is also between you and everything else. So I leave it to you to verify it.
Yes, this is a very, this must be true, yes, because in those moments when there is nothing to be said, nothing to be done, also you disappear in the sense that you are also absolutely.
Yes. In the moment, it's only in certain moments that we feel this separation. But as we speak right now, there is no separation. You see, most of the time there is no separation. That's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Yes.
Now I got it. Yes, it's beautiful. Thank you, Francis.
Regarding Wittgenstein, as we mentioned, that the thought that came is the difference and how we are conditioned somehow by our what we have studied in life. I was thinking also of Husserl. Husserl and Wittgenstein are two philosophers who, and also Schrödinger, who had a background in science.
Yes.
Husserl was a mathematician. In Wittgenstein, he was kind of an engineer, you see. He was trained in, I think, aeronautical engineering or something like that.
He invented the first airplane.
Yeah. And so it shows in their philosophy. It shows, I mean, Husserl is very understandable to mathematicians. And Wittgenstein is very understandable to engineers and physicists, because he sees the world as a little bit as a machine, and the objects in it are like the elements of the machine.
Yes.
The object, the Gegenstände, the Gegenstände, and what we see, the matters of what he calls the matters of fact, he sees that as a machine as a whole and not the components of the machine. And for him, the components doesn't make sense in and by themselves.
Yes.
The elementary fact is the machine, you see?
Yes.
And that's, you can see how his philosophy comes from his background. Husserl is very different. Husserl is a kind of, he has this clear distinction between what we perceive and the mathematical ideas, that a mathematical circle is nothing like the picture of the circle, which will be always imperfect, and that the eidos, right, of the circle has an existence on its own. And he has been completely misunderstood by most of the phenomenologists, who has taken their distance because they were in fact materialists, most of them. And they didn't understand the kind of sublime essentialism, or I wouldn't say idealism, but essentialism of Husserl, who took him somehow to the absolute in its own way. Anyway,
but it's also very difficult to read Husserl. It's very difficult as well. It's difficult to read him.
It's more easy for mathematicians.
Yes.
Because he tries to how mathematics developed is from observations, right? Like you count objects in a basket, or you have a field which is a square or a rectangle, and how do you calculate the area, or you have a circle. So, but from these observations in the world, they were abstracted in as ideas, and then these ideas were developed completely independent from any physical reality. If you take, I don't know, a Hilbert space or complex numbers of things like that, they don't exist in nature. You see, they are pure mathematical ideas. So just his observations, that he observed that how mathematics moved perhaps in the beginning from observations in the world, but then when they were in the world of the eidos, of the essence, then they could grow and develop on their own independently from the world. So he saw that, and he says, yes, but we cannot, there is no need to limit that to mathematics, to mathematical objects. The same approach, the same divorce between the world of things or of phenomena and the world of idea can be generalized to everything, and that becomes the phenomenology in his. But he's so misunderstood by philosophers that they see in him what they want to see, because he's complicated to understand. So that's very easy. You can make him say whatever you want.
Yes. Yeah. And that's beautiful. It's all beautiful when you think it's all perfect. Let's face it, it's all perfect, though.
Yeah, but Kant is boring.
Yeah, it can be. Like many other people.
Yes. He's a boring German professor.
Yeah. Well, that was. Thank you very much, Francis. Thanks.
Hi, Francis.
Hi, Emna.
I don't really know how to ask this, but it's like wanting closeness with someone, and they want, let's say you have a friendship with someone, but you want more closeness, but they're not really interested. And I feel hurt around that. There's also shame, because there's a feeling of needy and attachment.
Why do you want that if they are not interested? Because if you want that, if they are not interested, it means you want them not for what they truly are, but you want them as an object. You take them to be a body. And when we are desired or sought after or treated as an object, we don't like it. Nobody likes it. We become simply an instrument of their desire. We become a thing instead of being what we truly are. And there is a natural reaction against that. So you have to be very aware how you see people. Do you see them for what they truly are, consciousness, or do you see them as body and minds, as bodies and minds? Very important.
Yeah, I
I
see.
mean, it's okay to see body or mind as beautiful or as likable or whatever. That's one thing. But to see, to be confused, to have this confusion between the consciousness, the real person, and the body is a big mistake. And if you make this mistake about ourselves, about our own awareness and our own body-mind, then we are likely to make the same mistakes about others. And then there is no real love, no real connection. And on the contrary, people are going to not accept the relationship. And rightfully so. So there is nothing you can do other than understand who you are. That will eventually change your relationship with others. Otherwise, the only relationship you will have is to use others. But the problem is that it's a two-way street. And if we try to use others, others are going to use us. It's only in love that there is not this instrumentalization of the other or objectification of another being. But if you take yourself to be a separate person and the other to be also a separate consciousness, then you will try to use each other, and there is no flavor in such a relationship.
Yeah, I still see myself as a separate person.
Yeah. That's your problem. But what I'm telling you is try to find out, as I said the other day, first that understand that you have a choice to make regarding what you are. Am I this body or I am this consciousness, which is hearing these words? And that's very easy to decide because it's obvious that you are the one hearing these words right now.
Yeah.
Obvious. And you have no evidence that that which is hearing these words through the body which people call Amna is dependent upon this body. So the second part of the investigation is to find out how do you know that the awareness which is hearing these words is dependent upon the body called an Amna. And then sooner or later, you will come to the unavoidable conclusion that there is no evidence whatsoever, none, That will give you a lot of freedom. But as long as you are, as your desire, if you will, pushes you towards other things, such as relationships, whatever, you are doomed to be disappointed. And we learn from our disappointment. There is nothing wrong with that. It's like engineers, when they develop a new vehicle or a new airplane, they need to test it. They have to discover all the mistakes they have made. It's the same with us. The difference is that, in fact, there is only one mistake. A big mistake, which unfortunately, to most of us, doesn't look like a mistake. Amna, you're young, you have plenty of time to learn. That's the university of life. It's okay. Welcome to the club. We have all done that, been there, done that. It's good, no problem. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Hi, Francis. It's Rachna here.
Hi, Fran. Oh,
Rachna.
Oh, I wanted to ask a question a little bit to do with the fact that, so I was brought up as a Hindu, and there are lots of beautiful things about Hinduism, but I never really engaged with kind of the chanting or the, I engaged with the rituals that were fun and the festivals and things. And then this Saturday, actually, I was volunteering.
And the marriages.
No,
and,
no.
And the three-day weddings.
I haven't engaged with the marriage yet. Who knows if that will come?
I know that.
But I'm finding that I think I'm becoming a bit dismissive of things that are a little bit to do with the Hindu culture. So I'll give you an example. On Saturday, so actually 2 Saturdays ago, it was Diwali, and I went to my mum and dad, and actually it was really nice because it was the first time I'd gone inside the house because of lockdown. And I did the puja. I didn't understand what was being said, but it was a lovely moment, just to share with my parents. And so that's fine because we were sharing something. But then this last Saturday I was at something, and I volunteer at an organization that is definitely Progressive Path, and someone was doing a meditation, and I just didn't engage with the meditation because it wasn't true to my experience. Whatever they were saying, like it wasn't there. It wasn't representative of what's happening. And then I just stopped engaging, and I just opened my eyes and didn't carry on. And I felt like I was being a bit dismissive and therefore also a bit judgmental in my head because I was saying, no, this isn't my experience. How can they be saying these things? They're making it up. And I see that in me, that I love the truth, and I love many aspects of the Hindu culture, like the symbolism, some of the postures that you see in a temple, there were really lovely things. But then I think, like, I've got a copy of the Ramayana, and I'm never going to open that book. I just think, what's the point? So I don't know if I don't know if this is ego or whether this is, I don't know. I feel that I'm being a bit dismissive at times, and I hope I'm not insulting anyone, or I don't want to do that, but I also want to be true to, what feels right for me.
As you know, philosophy comes from India.
Mm.
So in that sense, I'm Indian. You know, I like the definition that Osho gave of India. He said something like India is wherever there is love for the truth.
Mm.
I think that's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah.
So we are in India here.
Yeah.
We don't need chapatis and
Mm.
parathas and all of that stuff. Regarding the Indian religions, you know, my teacher had this beautiful way of looking at many things, all these celebrations and all the stories.
Mm.
You know, Krishna, the gopis, all of that stuff, you know. And, the dream of Vishnu on the serpent Ananta, all of that stuff.
Mm.
And it's like you want to tell the truth. You want to prepare your children for the truth, but they are too young to understand the abstract thing about awareness and reality and the logic and all of that stuff. You see?
Mm.
So how do you prepare them? Your children, they love stories before going off to sleep. Do you tell them stories? And also they love to celebrate, you know, with colors and with things. So you create celebrations so that they can, you know, look forward to what's going on tomorrow. You know, what are we going to do? And in this way, without even noticing it, the ambient culture kind of prepares them on a subliminal level to receive the truth. You see, so there is great beauty in the Indian culture, including, you know, in the carving and the statues and the temples and all the symbolism, all of that, and the chanting and all of that. It's beautiful because everything somehow points to the truth. In a sense, it's a little sad that India is now overtaken by, you know, the civilization of plastic toys and smartphones. So the way to look at it that I suggest is this, to understand it as a preparation for the truth. And there is no need to be contemptuous about it, you see, just to see the beauty in it. Because, you know, all these things came somehow from sages who were trying to communicate their knowledge in as many different ways as they could in order to reach as large a number of people as possible. If you look over throughout history, India has been an extraordinary peaceful nation. I know it's not that peaceful, I know in the detail, right? But it has been invaded, it has never really invaded its neighbors. It's right, it's philosophy and religion was one of peace.
Yeah.
As you see, perhaps the ideal culture would be a mix of the Indian culture and of the Western culture. So, to have the societal freedom that we enjoy in the West, without the weight, you know, of societal imposition, the rules, you know, the laws of Manu, all that stuff. And at the same time, to have the philosophical freedom you enjoy in India, it's very hard to understand how a Westerner which is educated in a certain religion is then, because of all the belief systems that are demanded of that person, is then put in a kind of a straitjacket for most of us for the rest of their lives. Whereas in India, there is this, it's not in Indian culture, there is this notion that the truth has to be somehow revealed to each person. Each person is in search of the truth. There are gurus for that to help us, but it's a duty of each person to find the truth. In Europe, European religions are very different. The duty is not to find the truth. The duty is to obey the rules of the religion. Very different. In India, the duty is the societal duty to obey the rules of the, you see, of the society. But there is this inner freedom to search liberation, to search. In the West, we have this individual freedom. We are not totalitarian. We are not in favor of communism or Nazism or this type of. So we should worship freedom in both directions. You know? Societal freedom, like in the West, external freedom, and inner freedom of thought, of religion, of pursuit of the truth. That's what Vivekananda said when he came to the West. But I'm just paraphrasing what he said. Trying to take the best of both worlds. So fortunately, you live in the West, so you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I feel very lucky for that, for sure. And also having had this kind of, you know, spirituality was always such an important, it was a visceral part of our life. You know, we always knew about God. My brother is named after Shiv. You know, we all have names that in some way remind us of that. And I guess, you know, there's a part of me that feels, you know, I'm not in some way upholding the like parts of my culture, because I don't really know any of the stuff. I don't know the prayers, I don't know any of the rituals, and no one said it's a problem to me. So, you know, maybe it's just all in my head. But and yeah, it kind of doesn't matter, because, you know, I don't have any children to teach it to. But I just felt that I was losing a little bit of respect for the, you know, the overt bits of my culture which I wasn't finding meaning in. I'm not saying that I don't find meaning in, I love looking at beautiful temples, and I love going, you know, I still go and do those things, but I did notice that I was becoming a bit disrespectful.
Stories for the children.
Yeah, I'll take it as that. Thank you.
Francis?
Yes, Barbara.
Concerning, I was thinking about a conversation you had with someone recently about the parent-child relationship in that case, it was the child relating to parents. And basically you said, really, what can you do but love them and speak diplomatically? So in this case, it's the parent relating to the children. I want to I give them their freedom, implement the truth as best I can by making impersonal decisions. And it's a question of the specific incident that I'm thinking about now is my granddaughter is 2. She's just turned 2. And she's delightful. She responds. She obviously understands when people speak to her, but she doesn't speak at all. She just, you know, ba 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 ba, ma 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 kinds of sounds. It's very sweet. And I was FaceTiming with my son last night, and I noticed that that's how he speaks to her, ba 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 ba, ma 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 ma. And I just, you know, I was thinking about the mirroring neurons, and I heard her mother say, sit down. She was in the bathtub and she sat down. So, you know, I was just going to live it out and see if there was an opportunity that arose and maybe say, gee, something, but I'm not sure really. I know that sometimes the impersonal decision is to do nothing.
Yes, you know, fortunately, children are not stupid. So unless the parents, as they talk with one another, talk as
Right, gotcha.
which I assume is not the case.
No.
The child being the witness of real exchanges in the conversation.
Right, okay.
Will also
Okay.
the mirroring neurons will play a part.
I'm much relieved. Thank you. You always open it up a little broader than I have gone.
One of my children, the mother is German. And when we had this child, we decided to try to give him the gift of being bilingual. And so at home, we were speaking German among ourselves. But when I was speaking to the child, I was always speaking in French. And what happened is that when the child was 2, he wasn't speaking yet. Usually children, as you know, when they reach the age of 2, they start speaking. Yes. And so we were a little concerned. Is he retarded, you know? And 2 years and 3 months, this child was still not speaking. And then at 2.5 years, he started speaking 2 languages.
2 languages.
The mother in German, with me in French.
Okay, wonderful. So he'll speak to his father. She'll speak to her father, ba 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 ba, and her mother and his mother. Yeah. She'll say, "Sit down."
and he'll speak with strangers in normal English.
Right. Wonderful. Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Igor.
Yeah, so I woke up today a little sick, can't taste, and like aches and stuff. I haven't actually been tested yet, but I think that it's COVID. I wanted to use this time for the sadhana, so I wanted to know if you'd have any additional information for this time. right now it's fine. I don't have any fear or anything, but I have asthma, so if it does happen to come up, I'd like to.
You have to see a doctor, have you?
No, this was just this morning. I would do that though.
Do you have an instrument to measure your level of oxygen? You know, the thing you put in the finger?
No.
So go to the pharmacy and buy one.
Okay.
And check not only your temperature, your symptoms, your general condition, but also check your oxygen levels. And if you go down, I mean, ask your doctor, but I think if you go down before 95, go to the hospital immediately.
Okay. I would do that. Yeah, I was going to go to the doctor as soon as I can, but I was just going through the process in my mind, because now, for example, there are body aches and things like that. So I know that in difficult times, things can speed up as far as the work is concerned. So I wanted to see if you had anything to add.
Yes, and you are, because the symptoms can be the respiratory symptoms can be hidden for a while. You do not know. So that's why you have to make sure of your oxygenation and that your breathing rhythm is normal, that it doesn't accelerate too much. And so also to compensate deficiency there. But I'm not a doctor. You have to, and I don't know, there are doctors like Rachna online, and they may come up, and if they have anything to add to that. You are young, you say you're very young, so the outlook is very good. But
Yes.
take vitamin D, zinc supplement also, and
Yeah, this part is I would do all of this. My concern is with the work, with the sadhana.
there is nothing special because it's life as usual. It's not different from anything else that happens in your life. It's not like you have learned that you have terminal cancer. So
Yes. Yeah. So when you say to feel impersonally,
the good news is that to attend our next retreat, you don't have to get immunization. You will have antibodies.
that's good.
There is a silver lining to everything.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Francis.
Yes,
This is
Christian?
Christian, Germany. Yes. Hi. I just wanted to tell you of two things that happened and are kind of the fruits of the seeds that have been sown. And I thought because it's always so beautiful to listen to you and Laura, and I remember so many questions and concerns. So I thought it would be nice to talk about two of those fruits that I could just see falling into my lap, so to speak, as you said the other day. And well, the one thing was I received a little mail from a mother of a boy that I had in religion class at school in year 5, and she had seen me like 4 or 5 years ago, and she had let me know that the boy was afraid of me. He was just being afraid. I mean, he was young, and I was maybe a little bit strict or just consequent, and so he developed a little bit this fear, and then I said, okay, I'll take that into consideration, and I talked to him, and well, anyway, I think it was fine after that. But that was 4 or 5 years ago, and he's now in year 9, and he's in my class again now after a couple of years. So he has grown up to be a teenager, and he doesn't say a lot in this course, which is, by the way, one of the most beautiful courses I have yet had in my whole teaching career. They are all so open, and they're listening, and they're friendly, and it's just beautiful. You know, I've considered just reading a book, you know, Narziss and Goldmund from Hesse, although they're kind of young, but it's just that it's inviting, this class. Anyway, the mother of this boy just sent me an email saying that the boy said, oh no, yeah, first she wanted to let me know that he's no longer afraid of me, yeah. And the other thing is that he, in a conversation with her, he mentioned that most things at school are not really valuable for life, in his opinion, except for mathematics, physics, and religion. and she mentioned that, and she said she was kind of surprised because in her time at school, she never really realized that religion could be something that was interesting. But that he put me into that line of like mathematics, physics, and then religion, I found that kind of reassuring and kind of nice. And yeah, and then she asked him, and he said, yeah, there says many things that are connected with daily life, or that he could make that was useful. I mean, of course, we talk about the truth and yeah, and becoming happy, or being happy, not only becoming. Anyway, that was the one thing, and I could really see how I found it very, just beautiful that this just changed by itself. This boy to kind of was able to open up, and I was also maybe trying to able to reach him, and he's no longer afraid. And the other thing is, which was even more came as a surprise, for kind of like the last 3 or 4 years, I really did not have a good relationship with my brother any longer, because he developed into what I would call a champagne socialist. And and I could accept this. I mean, I let him be, but he was not willing to take my point of view on certain subjects. And he really said, you know, then probably if you're not willing to see certain things in a certain way, then we cannot spend time together. And I said, well, then it has to be this way. I mean, it's and we had a good relationship when we were younger, and I thought I was fine with that, but you know, it was not very a beautiful thing. It was just like this, and it was very, how can I say this? Each time we had to talk about things, there was a certain coldness to it. Anyway,
he lives in Bonn.
Yes, he does too. He became a lawyer, actually. He was also trained as a yeah, and then in this field. But I found my exit at the last moment, so to speak, and anyway, he didn't. I don't think he's too happy with being a lawyer. I don't know. He developed this, you know, you have to be super correct as a lawyer. It's just not fun to always look out for problems.
Yeah, especially a German lawyer.
Yeah, it's you know, it's really on top of that. Exactly. Being a lawyer is horrible, but being German, angst driven and super brainy, I know. And then you become a champagne socialist. You think you have to save the world. How it just won't work, you know. So I pity him a bit, but you know, that's the way he chose, and I can only, I mean, we all have to, as you say, learn from also the suffering, the misery we create. We have. Anyway, I just asked him what he wanted for as a birthday present, because I still keep this up as kind of something that the bond that still is there. And then he said actually he wanted to meet me for if I were up to take a walk, because we also had to talk about other things. And I said, okay, yeah, we can take a walk. And we had this 2-hour walk, and then we went home to his place. And for some reason we talked about this musician that we both like very much. So we have this same love for this musician, and he had found a biography of him, and then he talked about this new record that this guy had done, and then he played a song to me from this record, and then I had to start crying because it was so beautiful, that song, the melody, everything. And then we were just sitting across each other, and then I just took his hand, and we were sitting in silence, I mean, listening to that song, and he started crying also a bit. And then in my mind, it came up, this thought, I wanted to say, you know, I missed you. And I didn't say it. And the next thing he said to me, you know, I missed you, Christian. And I said, that's exactly what I wanted to say to you. And it was such a beautiful moment, because it was just it was the experience that there's this unity and the power of love, and what can I say? So and after that, I really felt so like having, yes, it's so beautiful, that the truth is so beautiful when it shines like this. And I wanted to share this with you, and thank you.
The experience of truth is so overwhelming compared to the concept of truth.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Francis?
Yes.
I'm going to start with an apology because I'm kind of new to the philosophy of Advaita and the oneness and unity. So please pardon my ignorance. My question is based on what they refer to as an I thought, right? The I thought that comes up when you wake up, or the I thought that is missing when you're in deep sleep. And then I read a lot of philosophy based on the fact that the world arises when the I thought arises. This kind of led to a lot of confusion on my end and almost a bit of fear, to be honest. My question really is, does that mean that the world is an illusion? Is it some kind of a projection? Is it my private projection, or is it a projection that we share? Because if the I thought is not real because it's a thought, then does that make the world also not real? I'm kind of leaning a little bit into solipsism, and which is why I wanted some kind of help and maybe a bit of your opinion, because then it kind of becomes difficult to engage in something that you don't really believe in fully. Or maybe that is the lesson, that perhaps you don't need to engage but still participate somehow. So I was just wondering if you could just, show me a little light on this topic.
First, since you mentioned the word solipsism, if you were a solipsist, it would mean that Francis doesn't really exist. Francis is simply a current projection of your limited mind, right? And you are creating it just as you are creating a person you meet in your dream. As you wake up from the dream, you realize you were creating this person. Now, if you are a true solipsist, it means that you know somehow that you are creating this person called Francis. Therefore, since you are creating it, there is no point talking to that person. Doesn't make sense, right?
Agreed.
Therefore, the fact that you are asking this question shows that you are not a solipsist. And good for you, I am not either. Therefore, I am answering because I understand that there is more to reality, meaning to whatever exists, than Francis's mind. Now, on the other, then we have to take to understand the position of the idealist. The idealist says this: we don't see, we see the external world through our own sense perceptions. So our experience of the external world is through the mind. Therefore, we don't know that there is such an external world. And therefore, the hypothesis or the belief in an external world, meaning external to the mind, other than the mind, the belief in the existence of such an external world is an unnecessary hypothesis. And Occam's razor rule demands that we get rid of this hypothesis. That's the position of the idealist. However, there is a big problem with this position, because that which good for the goose is good for the gander. If the argument is that we should eliminate, applying Occam's razor rule, the hypothesis of an external world because we don't perceive it, the application of the same Occam's razor rule should make us a solipsist. Why? Because there is no evidence either, no phenomenal evidence that other minds exist. So if we eliminate the hypothesis of another world other than our own mind, we should also, applying the same rule, eliminate the hypothesis of other minds. And then we would be back to the position of the solipsist. And the only legitimate position of a solipsist is to shut up, not ask questions, not interfere with other people. The moment they start interfering with other people, they don't believe to be solipsists any longer. So that should apply to an idealist also. The idealist is not consistent. The fact is that if we recognize the existence of other minds, there is no reason whatsoever not to recognize the existence of a world out there, or at least to be open to this possibility. Which takes me to the reality. The definition of the reality is a little tricky, but we know intuitively that there is something rather than nothing. It's not just intuitive, it's experiential. Because in this moment, as you are hearing my words, there is something rather than nothing, which are my words, and at least there is the awareness of the words. But this awareness of the words changes the next moment into awareness of your thoughts. or into awareness of other perceptions. So at every moment, there is something rather than nothing, because there is at least awareness. That establishes that there is not nothing. As using the words of Parmenides, being is, not being is not. In other words, being, existence, what reality is. Non-reality, non-existence, non-being is not an option. So we cannot present these two as two equal possibilities. They are equal possibilities only on the conceptual level. But on the experiential level, which is the only level that counts, there is only one possibility, that being is. Because if there is something at any point in time, it means there has always been something. And by something, I don't mean a thing in the world, because this something includes also awareness. So there has always been something, there will be always something, because nothing comes out of nothing. I cannot demonstrate that to you, because this is what we could call a priori knowledge. It is something that we cannot derive a knowledge from other knowledge, from prior knowledge. Because if we understand knowledge, there are two kinds of knowledge. There is knowledge which is derived from a prior knowledge. And there is also the beginning of knowledge, which is a priori knowledge, meaning knowledge that doesn't come from a previous knowledge, a priori, without prior, you know. So this knowledge a priori, if we look at our experience, there are two things we know a priori. The first is that there is something rather than nothing. In other words, there is being. And the other one is that there is awareness. I cannot prove to you that you are aware, that there is awareness. But you don't need, because you know you are aware. You don't need me to prove it to you. Just as I speak, somehow my words point in the direction of your awareness, and you know there is awareness in this moment. Just as you know there is something rather than nothing. And strangely enough, these two are related to one another. Because you cannot have, experientially have one without the other. You cannot have the experience of being, that there is something rather than nothing. You cannot have the experience of reality experientially without awareness. On the other hand, if there is awareness, there is already something rather than nothing. There is already being. Therefore, the two experiences, the two facts, if you will, that are known a priori, reality, being, sat in Sanskrit, on the one hand, and on the other hand, awareness, chit, in Sanskrit, experientially are one and the same, because you cannot have one without the other. So they are kind of two sides of the same coin. Now, regarding going back to the I thought is simply a thought, a word, the word I. It refers to an experience. But we have to be very aware of what the referent to the I thought is, because when we say I, we can mean our car. I got insured yesterday. I needed to renew my insurance, which means the insurance of the car. I got sick, meaning the body got sick. I understand, meaning I as awareness understand. You see, so I can refer to, the I thought can refer to different reference. What is very important is to have a clarity about the referent of the I thought whenever the I thought arises. The I thought in and by itself is not a problem. Now there is a problem, which is not the I thought. The I thought is not a problem, but which is avidya, ignorance, the opposite of wisdom, if you will, or the absence of wisdom. And the absence of wisdom is the belief that awareness, one I, the I refer to when I say I perceive, I feel, I understand, I decide, etc. This I that expresses our freedom, our intelligence, our love, our knowingness, our understanding, this I is identified with the body or with the mind, a human body-mind kind compound or entity. So that's ignorance. So as we wake up in the morning and the I thought arises, what does that mean? If the I thought arises and says, oh, it's a beautiful day, I'm so happy, so it's no problem. Because I, in this case, refers to our true nature, which is happiness itself. I feel so free. The I thought arises with the universe, no problem. But I wake up in the morning, everything is fine, and all of a sudden the I thought arises, I'm going to die. I need to be loved. I need this, I need that, I want this, I want that. It is this neediness, this fear, this desire relates to the body mind. This I thought is in and by itself is not a problem. The problem is the identification of awareness, what we truly are, Sat, Chit, our reality, with a limited body mind. That's ignorance, avidya. That's a problem.
So Francis, your words are very comforting, and I do agree with you that it doesn't really need any proof for me to convince myself that I am aware or about my beingness. So that is very comforting. Thank you for putting it out so forcefully. It did really make a lot of effect here. And to your point about the I thought, which you specified about if it being in ignorance, it is really about a separate sense of self, wherein I need to be loved or I need to live a long life or not die. My follow-up question to that is, so if and when that softens, when the ignorance softens and perhaps disappears, and then I perhaps don't identify with that I thought as a separate sense of self, would my experience perhaps change? And would I really feel that I am the world, or everything that is me, or is that what you would mean by softening of ignorance? Would that perhaps indicate what unity would be experienced as? Not in the sense of what I mentioned earlier, that the I thought will disappear and the world would also disappear, but rather the I thought, when it comes out of ignorance, perhaps my sense of self expands. Would that perhaps be the experiential effect of the sense of oneness and the unity that is taught in the philosophy?
Yes.
And I can understand why that would take the fear away, right? Because then you're not really trying to preserve this separate small self. And as long as there is being and awareness, which experience tells us that it's...
You take care of the body just as you take care of your car. You know, and different people take care of their cars differently. Some people are very cautious, you know, they, as soon as there is a problem, they take it to the garage. Other people, they have a sports car, they take it to the track, you know, and after 3,000 miles, the car is shot, you know. And other people, they don't want to leave the car in the garage, they drive it leisurely, you know, to enjoy life and the landscape, but at the same time, not trashing it too fast. So, but that, it depends on the preference of each car owner or user. So it's the same with our bodies. But ultimately, no matter how, no matter what your style of using your car is, the moment you don't identify with your car, you are not deeply afraid. You see, of course, you don't like to have to take your car to the repair shop because it's expensive and it's cumbersome, but ultimately it's not about you. You see, so it's no big deal. So it's the same. You can have the same relationship with your body as you have with your car. The end of your car is not the end of you. The end of your body is not the end of your reality. As a result of this new fearlessness, you see the world and your activities in a very different light. Also, you don't see yourself as separate, because what I have failed to mention is this awareness. The moment you understand that your reality is this awareness rather than this body-mind, this awareness, the moment it is understood and experienced as radically distinct from the body-mind, regains its full autonomy and opens the possibility that it be universal instead of limited and dependent upon the body. So the liberation is really the liberation from the belief that awareness is mortal and limited, and the openness to the possibility that this apparently limited and ordinary awareness, which is hearing these words right now, is in fact universal, eternal, divine, miraculous. The moment we are open to this possibility will implement itself in our lives, taking the form of serendipity with regard to external events that happen in the world and in the body, and also taking the form of happiness regarding the inner experience of our self. Happiness is really the experience of awareness knowing itself. That's the nature of happiness, and that's what we all seek. All human beings seek that either knowingly or perhaps without knowing it in the beginning, but we all seek the same thing, happiness. In wisdom, it finds itself.
Francis, you mentioned the word universality. In my current stage of so-called ignorance, I feel like my awareness depends on my sense perception. My awareness depends on me somehow being able to see or hear or feel. The sense I'm getting from your advice is that for now I just have to be open to the possibility, and would that perhaps indicate that I'm walking in the right direction?
Yeah, so the first thing is to try to find out, okay, because you tell me it seems that. Can you investigate the nature of this seeming? What is the evidence that awareness, the reality which is hearing these words right now, is dependent upon this body mind? What is the evidence? Try to find out. You see that you cannot discover any solid element of evidence.
I do come up with a blank every time, which is quite confusing for me because I'm not able to answer that question like you said.
No. If you claim that awareness is dependent upon the body, if you make a claim, you carry the burden of proof, right?
Right. Maybe call it conditioning, right? We're just made to believe that this is how seeing works.
Precisely. Yes, it's conditioning. But then you have people who are conditioned into believing that the earth was flat, or that the universe, that the stars were revolving around the earth. That we believe something out of culture on cultural ground doesn't make it true.
Agree with you 100% on that. It's just the sense that I get that I seem to have more control over my mind, my body, right? That is how the sense of my comes in and keeps getting.
Okay. Let's envision that, because so the argument you are presenting is that you have control over your mind. You mean you have control over your thoughts, right?
Well, not control. Maybe I at least have the option of being able to observe my mind and my thoughts. I don't have the option of being able to observe, say your mind or your thoughts. So it kind of gives this kind of an intimate.
Okay. Let's assume, for the sake of the argument, because the claim you're making is not a claim that you have the proof that awareness is dependent on your body, right?
Agreed, 100%.
You don't have this proof, but what you are kind of trying to tell me is this: if only I could have access to Francis' mind in this moment, if only I could have this access, then for me, it would be evidence that awareness is universal. Am I correct?
In a way, that is the kind of argument I'm trying to make, yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, let's assume, for the sake of the argument, that that would be the case. That, for instance, now I am thinking of something which is it was a purple elephant. I was thinking of a purple elephant. So let's assume at the moment of when I was thinking of a purple elephant, you would have this image in you of a purple elephant. And then when Francis says, I was thinking of a purple elephant, you say, oh, yes. I had this image in my mind. what would be the conclusion you would derive from this experience? Are you sure that you would derive the unavoidable conclusion that awareness is the same, that we share awareness? Or wouldn't it be possible for you to derive a different conclusion, which is that for a while, Francis' mind and Om's mind were communicating through telepathy? That your awareness and my awareness, while remaining separate, were exchanging during this moment information, right?
Right. Or I could still assume that it was perhaps just an impression of my own mind, and I could perhaps be misleading myself by thinking that maybe that is Francis's mind who's thinking a purple element. I could maybe just think that maybe it was just my mind who thinks that it's Francis's mind who is thinking it's a purple element. So I could be confused many which ways.
No matter what. So if we go back to the argument, first, you have no evidence that awareness is not universal, first point. However, you were putting an additional requirement, an additional request, which was this: in order to understand that awareness is universal, I would need to have direct access to your mind. I prove to you that if that was the case, this wouldn't be convincing evidence that awareness is universal.
And I follow you 100%.
Because ultimately it doesn't matter, but there is more. Because there is more, because right now in this moment, no matter what, we are communicating. We take that for granted, the fact that we are communicating. But there is something strange to it, which we have a kind of misunderstanding of what is going on in this moment between us. Because we are making two opposite claims, which are kind of mutually exclusive. On one hand, we are claiming that your awareness and my awareness are separate. On the other hand, we are agreeing that they communicate. So, which one of the two is it? Because if they are truly separate, they are incommunicado, they cannot communicate. If they communicate, no matter how, they are not separate. You see this implicit contradiction. There is either we agree that we are communicating, in which case awareness to awareness, the two awarenesses are not separate, no matter how, and no matter what. Or we are saying, no, we are not communicating at all, but then we are back to solipsism. What is it that I am apparently communicating with? Myself. You see? So if we agree that we are communicating, it means no matter how, that our minds are not separate. Our minds, they have a common background. And this common background of reality / awareness, reality / awareness, not separating awareness from the reality. Because if we attribute the reality, for instance, to the material universe, this material universe, we are communicating through it, right? The chain of transmission through this mic, through this computer, through the internet, through your computer, through the speaker in your computer, through your ears, and finally, through awareness. There is a continuous chain. There is a continuity within the same reality. And the awareness is completely part of this reality. So through this reality, it is this reality that communicates. And this reality is our reality. As I think Spinoza was criticizing Descartes' view of the human condition, because he said Descartes sees man as an empire within an empire within a bigger empire. Wrong. Man is not an empire within an empire, because there is only one empire, which is the big empire. And everything within a big empire is at most a kingdom, but certainly not an empire. So there is only one reality through which we communicate, which unites your mind, my mind, your body, my body. Yes. And the awareness is the reality that perceives, the reality that perceives, our reality, our real self. That's my definition of the awareness, the reality, that which truly hears these words in this moment, that which truly understands them. That's the real me, that's the real you. And it is this reality, and there is only one reality. Advaita, not two realities, only one. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Francis.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank